Hey there. If you're thinking about retiring early, you may have heard this warning: leave too soon and Social Security will punish you severely. I heard the same thing before I stepped away. But here's the straight truth from someone who actually did it and ran the math. For a lot of people, retiring early can affect your Social Security benefits, but it usually doesn't nuke it. The warning you may have heard is much scarier than the actual math. Let me translate how Social Security works as simply as I can because it's a little different how the Social Security Administration calculates it, and there are some terms involved you may never have heard of. Social Security isn't based on your last job or your last handful of paychecks. It's based on your highest 35 years of earnings. The Social Security Administration takes those 35 years, adjusts older years up for overall wage growth so dollars, say from the 90s, are comparable to today, totals them, and divides by 420 months. That gives them your AIME, your average index monthly earnings, or AIME. Then they run your AIME through a formula with bend points, which are thresholds in the formula where the crediting rate changes to get something called your PIA, your primary insurance amount, which is what you receive at your full retirement age. If you were born in 1960 or later, that's 67. Bend points update every year, so the exact numbers change, but the process is the same. All right, now that we know as simply as possible how your Social Security benefits are calculated, there are two details that matter if you want to retire early. First, if you don't have the 35 credited earnings years that is used by the Social Security Administration to calculate your benefits, Social Security fills the missing years with zeros. Now, zeros are the enemy. Second, and this is key, only the earnings through age 59 are indexed for wage growth. Once you hit 60 and beyond, your earnings are counted at face value with no indexing bump. That means the years you might skip in your early 60s often don't help as much as people assume because they're not getting juiced by indexing anyway. In a lot of careers, your high earning years are already in the bank by your late 40s and 50s, so your top 35 may already be mostly set. When you retire early, the math just swaps in a few lower years from earlier in your life. The hit is real, but for many people, it's smaller than the internet and media horror stories suggest. Let's make this concrete with a simple thought experiment. Let's talk about Joe and what he does. Let's say he takes Path A and keeps working a few more years so he's got a full 35 years of earnings the Social Security Administration can use to calculate his benefits. In Path B, he retires earlier and doesn't have a full 35 years of earnings, so has a few 0 years. But the difference between Path A and Path B for Joe is not as bad as you'd think, and certainly not the horror story you may have heard. In fact, the difference at full retirement age often lands in the ballpark of a couple $100 a month. Now, your mileage will vary. Bend points change annually. Every earnings history is unique. And I don't know if you took 5 years off to raise kids or build a business in your 50s. But directionally, for many early retirees, the gap in benefits between retiring early and having a full 35 years of earnings history is more annoying than life altering. Now, if you retire early in your short 35 years of earnings history, just be aware that those years will be zeros in your Social Security benefit calculation. So it will impact your benefits, but not drastically, as I've been saying. But if you take some part-time work in early retirement, maybe to be more social and to help keep yourself busy, or to do a low-stress job to ease yourself into retirement instead of going cold turkey, or maybe to get health insurance benefits, as there are employers out there that do provide health insurance to part-time employees. Employers like Costco, Trader Joe's, and Starbucks are examples. That part-time work will help increase your Social Security benefit because you'll be replacing those zeros with a positive number, which raises your average. Also, along with this thought, the more higher earning years you had in your 35 years of history, it's going to kick those lower earning years out if you're like me, and I had my first job at age 16 working at Hardee's. So the more higher earning years you've had, the greater your benefit is going to be, sometimes more than one thinks. So if you're on the verge of a big raise or your peak earning window is ahead of you, it's something to consider in terms of when you do plan to retire early. Of course, whether this matters also depends upon the size of your portfolio. If you've got income coming in during retirement, for example, from dividends or rental properties you own, etc., in which case the difference may not really matter to you. And one more thing people mix up all the time. Deciding when to retire is one decision, but when to claim Social Security is another. Retiring early decides whether you're still adding to those 35 years, but when you claim decides how much of a reduction you take from your full retirement age benefit. If you claim early, you lock in a permanent haircut. If you delay past full retirement age, you get delayed credits up to age 70. That's a strategy conversation layered on top of the decision of when you might retire early. You can retire and wait to claim. You can work and still claim later. If we were at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and we were talking about this, here's exactly how I'd walk you through it. First, pull your earnings record on SSA.gov and make sure it's right. Folks have seen typos and missing years more than once, and fixing those is basically free money. Second, count your credited years. If you're under 35 years of earnings history when you retire, consider replacing those zeros with something, anything, so you're not averaging in blanks. Third, look at your lowest earning years inside your 35-year earning history and ask, if I work 2 or 3 more years at today's pay, would those new years kick out some duds from my 20s or earlier? If yes, those extra years might be worth it. If not, you might be working mostly for peace of mind, not for a massively higher check. Fourth, remember the role Social Security plays in your overall plan. For a lot of early retirees, it's the third or fourth income source after portfolio withdrawals, part-time work, and maybe dividend and rental income. If your plan already works, a small monthly difference shouldn't be the thing keeping you in your office chair when you're ready to leave and start enjoying retirement. My bottom line is the same one I gave myself when I was thinking through all of this. Don't let fear headlines make the call. Let your actual earnings record make the call. If you've already banked 35 solid years and your plan pencils out, retiring early usually doesn't blow up your Social Security. If you're short on years or your best earnings are right now, you may want to give yourself a little more runway to replace zeros and low years, then reassess with fresh numbers. But like I said, it also depends on the rest of your situation, the size of your investment portfolio, if you've got rental income coming in when you retire, and so forth. Like all things with retirement planning, there is not always one right answer, and everyone's situation is different. The important thing is for you to make the best decision with the knowledge you've learned for your own unique situation. Here's your homework to get absolute clarity. Download your SSA earnings record from SSA.gov. Build 2 quick scenarios, keep working a bit longer, and or hang it up earlier. Compare the projected benefits at full retirement age and at the age you might actually claim. Look at the difference in dollars, not feelings. If that difference won't change your lifestyle and your plan still works, you've got your answer. If it will change your lifestyle, you've got a targeted goal. Replace zeros or kick out lower earning years. I'm rooting for you to build your dream retirement. If this helps, share it with others you know who may find it useful. And give this a like so YouTube promotes this video and channel so more people can discover it, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And before you go, I have a couple of freebies available for you to download. First, make sure you download my free 12 Months 2 Steps to Retire Sooner and Smarter. It's a checklist that offers a quick, practical guide to retiring early. You'll find a link to it in the description. And I've also got a free MAGI calculator Excel template that I created for my video titled ACA MAGI, How to Calculate and Manage It for Big Savings. This video goes over how to not only calculate MAGI if you're planning on going on an Affordable Care Act plan, but even more importantly, strategies to manage it so that you can pay less for premiums and even potentially get cost-sharing reductions as well. You'll find a link to this video on the end screen and in the description, and a link to the free MAGI calculator as well in the description. And when you're on the go, Early Retirement Roadmap is available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and go to mikeupland.com for all of my media and resources in one place. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Mike Upland, early retiree last year at the age of 55, and I create these videos to give you the straight talk and advice on how to retire early and thrive in it by someone who's done it. Take care and make the most of today.